Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Health Revolution, the program that shows you how to have a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity. In a sea of fads, we reveal the science-backed strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery. These are the keys to an enriched life. Join us for inspiring interviews with champions who conquered life's health challenges, fueling your journey. Are you ready to unlock your potential? To live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest. Together, we're about to change the game, starting now. The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Welcome, everybody, to the Health Revolution. We are excited that you are joining us today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and we have got a show for you. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. No matter which way you made your way to us, we want to stay connected to you. Today's episode is very important because we're covering an area that so many people globally do suffer from, and that we're talking about headaches and migraines and the impact, the domino effect it's had on our lives. This is very important for us to understand and take a granular approach to what we can do to tackle it if, say, you or a loved one is suffering from migraines and that connection to our health, and what are the tools that we can do today to really tackle it and take it head on. So my guest today is someone who is very well versed in the knowledge and the experience and the research into headaches and migraines and all that implies. Take a look at this. Let's get to know her. Meet Dr. Amelia Scott Barrett, also affectionately known as Dr. B, a neurologist who empowers you to take control of your headaches beyond temporary fixes. With her groundbreaking work, Dr. B advances the belief that we hold the power to overcome chronic headaches, not just mask them with medication. In her insightful TEDx Talk in 2023, Dr. B explored how migraines can cause lasting changes in the brain, a process that can lead to increased frequency and severity in headaches, impacting many, especially women under the age of 50. Dr. B's innovative approach, featured in top publications like Business Insider and Women's World, offers hope and strategies through her Migraine Relief Code. She leverages the latest in genetic testing and smart health technology to pinpoint and treat the root causes of headaches.
And we need this kind of information now more than ever. Migraine is still the #1 cause of disability in women under 50.
Dr. B is here today to share her vision for a future where debilitating headaches are a thing of the past and people can reclaim the lives they love free from pain. Dr. B, welcome to the Health Revolution. How are you?
I am so good. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
I'm glad that you're here too. Diving right into it, what really propelled you to take a closer approach? What helped you really focus on migraines and the connection to our health as part of your professional career?
Well, there came a moment as I was in my office as a neurologist, had been for decades, taking care of people with headaches, when I realized that we are actually more powerful than the pills I was prescribing. And what I mean by that is that we have the ability to get more information about our bodies now than at any point before in all of human history. And we can use that information to heal. And that is what makes us more powerful than our pills. And so that really launched me down a path of using integrative medicine online to help people everywhere find effective solutions for this debilitating condition.
How many people do suffer from migraines, from headaches? What are the numbers these days? What are the trends that you've been seeing?
You know, the statistics are that about 10% of people have headaches in general. A smaller fraction of those, maybe 1 to 2% of people have chronic headaches. And I think it's the chronic headaches, of course, the people with chronic headaches who suffer the most. If we have a headache once a month, we pop a pill, we power through, not a problem. But it's when people start having 1 or 2 headaches a week, and then they start using that strategy of popping 1 or 2 headache pills a week, that is when the brain starts to change as a result of those headaches. And that's something that most people don't know can happen at that point in their headaches.
You know, when you say that the brain begins to change, this is something that prior to you and I meeting today, when you started to share what you've been studying, I had never realized that the brain changes. And talk a little bit about some of the alarming factors behind that. Because I know growing up, I just knew you just took a Tylenol or ibuprofen if you have, and then sure, there's Imitrex if there's, or anything of the like that is for migraines. So what do we need to know about the brain makeup and the changes that happen?
Oh my gosh, I am so happy to. I actually did a TEDx talk on this because I want as many people to know this as possible. I feel like it's something that just we neurologists know, and we have not done a good job of letting most people with headaches know that this can happen to them. So what we have learned from advanced types of brain imaging, like functional MRI and things like that, is that once you start having more than maybe 2 to 3 headache days a week, and I mean headaches of any type, whether you think they're sinus headaches, tension headaches, barometric pressure headaches, migraines, any kind of headache, if there is pain happening up here, then your brain starts to fire abnormally. After it fires abnormally, then it wires abnormally, and then you are walking around with a different brain. Now, over time, this can result in things like iron deposits in the brainstem. It can result in an enlargement of the amygdala, which is one of the centers that processes emotion in our brain. And these changes in your brain change your experience of your life. These changes make you more and more prone to headaches. So for years, my patients would tell me, it seems like everything causes a headache these days. Maybe a smell, or, if I don't get enough sleep at night, any little thing starts causing headaches. So they get uber reactive, start having more and more headaches. And at the same time, what happens is that their medications stop working as well. That's part of these changes in the brain that we call chronification. So right when they need those medications most, they stop working. And this leaves people in a real bind. What the heck are you supposed to do then if you don't even have medications to turn to? So I think that it's really important that everybody know this, number one, so they can prevent it. And number two, if they're there, so that they understand that the answers are probably not going to come from medications at that point, that they're going to need to find and fix those underlying root causes of the headaches in order to get back to the quality of life that they want.
When did we discover that this was happening? When did the medical community discover that this was a thing?
Yeah, we've been evolving this concept since literally the late 1990s. It's in more recent years that we've been able to see it on imaging, but we've known about this process for decades.
Do you think that there's more dialogue that's coming out of it, that are more doctors talking or more specialists talking about how headaches tend to evolve, or is it just conversations that have yet to be had at this point? I've never heard of this before until you and I were able to connect.
Yeah, I think that, the way many people feel is like oh gosh, that's too bad, that can happen, I'm going to try harder to give this person the exact right combination of medications so that that doesn't happen to them. But the real empowerment is the people who have the headaches knowing that this can happen. And the moment of transformation comes when they say, that's it, I'm done. I do not want that to happen to me, and I will change my life to make it not happen. I don't want to be one of the people who's on disability. Migraine is the #1 cause of disability in women under 50. And I think if people let that sink in and say, oh my gosh, that could happen to me. I could lose everything that matters. You know, my ability to show up for my kids, not just my job, my ability to show up for my family, for my friends, for all the things that give meaning to my life. We all know, anybody who's had a migraine, that when you are in that place, like, you can't do your day the way you wanted to. So my hope is that just by letting people know, hey, this is happening more and more, and despite all the amazing medications we have, that statistic remains. I want people to take action. I want people to get to that point where they are like, that's it. I'm going to do what it takes to make this go away.
So can you take us through the different types of headaches that have been recognized that human beings have, and the severity of what you talked about, tension headaches, you talked about, and then of course we're mentioning migraines, but take us through what we come to know as headaches, and then the severity of each type that a human being experiences.
Yeah, sure. Well, certainly the most common is a tension headache. And many people describe that as a band-like sensation around the head. It often comes on at the end of a day, especially a difficult, stressful day. It may respond to simple analgesics, over-the-counter type medications. It's typically not disabling. It's more annoying. It's there in the background. It's making you irritable. You know, when your kids ask for the 34th thing in a night, you're like, it's more that kind of a headache, right? A migraine is a different creature. It's got a very specific set of diagnostic criteria. And the ones that people identify with most often are light sensitivity, sound sensitivity, nausea, sometimes vomiting. And they tend to be more one-sided, whereas tension headaches are typically on both sides. I want to emphasize that even if you are in a place where where you used to have migraines and now you have headaches every day, but they're not migraines, the chronification can still be happening to you. People stop having all of those migraine characteristics as they go into chronification. So I want to really emphasize it's really just the presence of pain that is the predictor for those brain changes, and of putting you in that place where you're sort of walking on the edge of a cliff that you don't even know is there. People don't know how fast their headaches can spiral out of control once they get to that 2 to 3 headache days a week. And then, you know, when the headaches are getting more often and the medications stop working, then they're really in a bind. Much harder to fix.
Can you explain the definition of chronification and then how it adjusts to the typical scenarios that you're explaining?
Mm-hmm. So chronification, that word really just describes the impact of chronic headaches on the brain, right? So whether that's a physical change in the structure of the brain, a chemical change in how the brain works, there are also symptoms that go along with this also, which I talk about a lot in my TEDx talk, because I want people to be able to recognize when it's happening to them. So some of the things that people have more often are things like skin sensitivity. You know, that's an unusual symptom, but they may feel like their skin is just sunburned, on fire, especially in the head. And there's no particular reason for it, but they just have this sensitivity. People definitely notice more mood swings. People start having more trouble with insomnia, more frequent headaches, of course. So there are actually a lot of things that people can notice in terms of symptoms, and also changes that we can see in the brain, both physically and chemically, when chronification is happening.
You brought up one scenario that now just got my attention, insomnia. So I almost want to ask, does one cause the other or vice versa? Do the chronic headaches in that particular scenario cause the insomnia, or does insomnia cause it? Or it's almost like which comes first, the chicken or the egg? What is that relationship like? What have you noticed in the issue of sleep deprivation or someone struggling with sleep?
Oh my gosh, girlfriend, chicken and egg. You nailed that one. That is exactly, that is exactly it. They do kind of go hand in hand. So I think that you can have severe headaches that keep you up at night, and then you have insomnia, and then they don't get better. There's another subset of people who have a lot of anxiety. That's what keeps them up at night. And then they get headaches as a result. And then it can go the other way too. Maybe something stressful is just going on in somebody's life and they have an occasional bad night's sleep and get a headache the next day. So it can go any of the above. I think what's important for people with migraines to know is that, I have a lot of people who tell me, well, I only sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. That's the way I'm wired. I just don't need more sleep. I want to really, really dispel that notion, especially for people with headaches. And here's why. So there is a system in the brain called the glymphatic system, and it cleans out our brain at night while we sleep. It's this beautiful, beautiful thing when you see pictures of it. It's just been discovered during my career as a neurologist. We've only known about this for like 10 years. So it's super fascinating the way the brain sends waves, essentially. There's fluid in the brain called CSF, right? And what it does during certain stages of sleep, it's like a wave pool, that you take your kids to. There's like a wave generator and it makes that wave. Imagine that wave just gently washing out your brain at night while you sleep. Super cool. So if that is not happening because you're not getting those stages of sleep, then your brain doesn't get cleaned out. But here's what matters for people with headaches. Migraines shut off your glymphatics. Okay. So here's the problem people get into. They're having headaches or migraines during the day, so their glymphatics aren't cleaning out their brain. And then because of the headaches or because of stress or because of anxiety or because they have a brain that's just gotten used to not sleeping, then they don't get enough sleep at night. The brain can't clean itself out then either. And so you can see how this could lead to just the trash truck and the brain just filling up and overflowing. And that can be one of the things that contributes to that inflammation that perpetuates headaches and chronification for people.
And this is fascinating because again, you're sharing things that's not common knowledge for so many of us that don't study this, or just have yet to come across this until now. What about the case of those who don't have as many headaches, but maybe that they're intermittent? Are there different characteristics that have come up as trends for, say, the person that has sporadic headaches versus the person who's like, as predicted, I've got 2 to 3 headaches for every single week of my life going forward?
Yeah, I love that question. And I think it comes down to how many hidden things are under the surface. So let me explain. I view headaches as an iceberg. Okay. You may notice, oh, hey, I ate this thing here at the top of the iceberg. And that's what I remember happening before my headache began. But the truth is, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. And there's the whole rest of the iceberg under the water that is actually contributing to your headaches. So there may be some element of chronic adrenal exhaustion. There may be an element of leaky gut. There may be nutrient deficiencies. There may be toxins. So many things could be going on under the surface. And so I think what is happening for the people who are having more headaches, they just have a bigger iceberg. There are more things going on under the surface, and occasionally something will come to the surface and trigger a headache, or maybe not even trigger a headache, but just be associated in time with a headache. And then you think it was a trigger. It can get so confusing to figure out triggers. But I think that's the main difference between people, is that people who are having more frequent headaches, they have more going on under the surface.
Wow, this is fascinating. We're going to continue our conversation. First, we're going to take a break. Stay put. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Hello, health seekers. Welcome back to Fit Bites with Adriana. Today, we're focusing on a small but mighty gland, the thyroid. Thyroid disorders are more common than you might think, especially among women. The thyroid gland regulates your metabolism, energy levels, and overall bodily functions. When it's out of balance, it can lead to conditions like hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, affecting your mood, weight, and energy. So, how can you support your thyroid health? First, nutrition is key. Ensure your food intake includes iodine-rich foods like seaweed, fish, and dairy, as iodine is crucial for thyroid function. Also, pay attention to your selenium and zinc intake. That's found in nuts, seeds, and whole grains, and they're essential for thyroid hormone production. Regular exercise is another great way to boost thyroid function. It helps to stimulate hormone secretion and increases sensitivity to thyroid hormones. Don't forget to manage stress. High levels of stress can disrupt thyroid function, so incorporate stress-reducing activities like meditation or walking in nature into your routine. Lastly, if you suspect a thyroid issue, please consult with a healthcare professional for proper testing and treatment. This can also be linked to your perimenopause or menopause journey. By taking care of your thyroid, you're supporting your body's functions. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites, and here is to a balanced and healthy you.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Welcome back, everybody. Our guest today is Dr. Amelia Scott Barrett, also known as Dr. B. We're talking all things headaches and migraines, how to address and overcome so that we can live a high quality of life. She is an integrative neurologist, and she is bringing the info today. And Dr. B, before the break, we were talking about the distinguishing between those who have sporadic headaches and those who have much more common headaches. And I love the analogy that you used with the iceberg, that there's other elements that need to be unpacked so that the triggers, or so that you can get granular with the situation. And I'm thinking about, what does it mean about genetics? So when we think about, what role does genetics play in determining the susceptibility of migraines for someone? Can we unpack that?
Yeah, genetics is huge, but it is not as unfixable as people tend to think. So a lot of what we've learned about genetics so far has revolved around, oh, here's a gene for this, you have that, too bad. But that's not useful, is it? Right? So what we're doing with genetics in the past several years is we're looking at the genetics of systems in your body. And now these are things that you can influence. All right. So I am talking, for example, about the genetics that determine how your body uses things like vitamin D. Vitamin D is super important for the brain. And there are genetic factors that regulate how you absorb it, how you transport it, how you use it. And when you look at all of those factors together, you can get a really good idea of what the genetics are of your vitamin D system. Now, that example is very easy to understand because everybody has, so many of us have had a vitamin D level checked, right? There are other systems that are a little more complicated. So for example, there's a system in the body called methylation. It just means it's just a biochemical pathway. That's it. Just remember high school chemistry, all the ingredients that go into making something at the end. Methylation is one of those. It's involved in making neurotransmitters. It's involved in epigenetics. It's important stuff. And some studies show that as many as 40% of people with migraines have problems in one of their methylation genes. So if we look at that whole system of genes that's involved in the methylation pathway, there are multiple places where we can intervene in that long biochemical pathway, right? And then there are multiple different pathways. So that gives us a lot of opportunities to improve. Now, the power of this is that if you get your genetic testing done, you learn that you have problems with your methylation, which I do. I have migraines. I have problems with my methylation. But I now have a whole new set of recommendations about how to keep my body healthy, right? So if you keep all of the systems in your body, especially the ones that are important for migraine, like methylation, inflammation, nutrient processing, detox systems, if you can keep all those systems functioning optimally, then your brain is working the way it's supposed to, your body is working the way it's supposed to, and then you're not going to get as much pain. Because pain is really a signal from our body, right? It's our body saying, ow, something's wrong, pay attention here. But for some reason, we've gotten away from treating head pain like that. We treat head pain like, oh, no, let's silence that, pop a pill, make it go away, power through, let's not change our day at all. We've gotten to the point where we think that's our goal with headaches. Our actual goal is to figure out what's causing that pain, heal our bodies to the greatest degree we can, which is incredible now with all the new science and technology we have, so that we're not getting head pain in the first place.
So there's a lot that I want to cover here. One of the things is hydration. So I remember in my professional career coming across the importance of hydration so that headaches are not something that is frequent. Can you talk about hydration and the role that it plays? And maybe do we miss the mark in society of being a hydrated society or no? Or where do we struggle with that? And what can we learn from the basics of keeping the body hydrated?
Absolutely. Dehydration is a very common headache trigger and also a very common cause of the dizziness that so many people with headaches get. Many people will feel dizzy when they stand up, which is absolutely one of the things that happens to you when you're dehydrated. And I think that, most people with headaches have gotten the memo that they need to stay hydrated. I think they're just not clear on exactly how much that is and also on how much electrolytes can help you. People, I recommend to all my students who I work with to start the day with 32 ounces of water just from the get-go. In the first hour of your day, load your body up and then calculate the amount of water you need the rest of the day and spread it out over the rest of the day. But that way you're giving your body a good boost to just get the day going right. And for people who have dizziness, I think they get a lot better if they add electrolytes to that. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not talking about the, high sugar chemical filled electrolytes. I'm talking about things that are, they have sodium and chloride and magnesium and potassium and not a lot of sugar and not a lot of other chemicals. Those are the ones we really want to focus on. But that can make night and day difference, especially for people with vestibular migraines where they have a lot of dizziness.
And that's important. I know that and I love the distinction you made with electrolytes and then say that role, because it's not just say society oftentimes thinks of, water. So I just need to get my hands on more water, but not knowing and then hearing of the other nutrients that comprise the entire picture of hydration. Mm-hmm. Some people will say, well, I got to watch my sodium. So I have to make sure that, I have to abstain from it. But, is it not true that if there's deprivation in that area, that it could cause dehydration? It could trigger even more dehydration. Could you speak about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And to tell you the truth, for most people with migraines, not all, but most actually have more problems with low blood pressure than high blood pressure. Now, of course, if you don't happen to be that person, this may not apply to you. But for the vast majority of people, more salt is not wrong. Salt has definitely been vilified in our culture, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yeah. But, it's an essential element in our bodies. And for many people, especially those struggling with dehydration, headaches, dizziness, that lack of sodium is such an easy fixable problem.
Can you talk, and I want to steer into what I'm assuming it might be an area we don't often talk about. Is there a correlation between migraines, headaches, and say strokes for someone experiencing a stroke? What might be the connection, if any, and any characteristics? Are there any trends, things to be on the lookout for the risk of stroke or having a stroke?
Mm-hmm. There is an ever so slightly higher risk of stroke in people who have migraines. Now, I don't want all of you thinking every time you get a headache that you're going to have a stroke. It's still incredibly unlikely. The thing that makes it tricky for those of us with headaches is that when we get the aura, which is a series of events in the brain that can cause neurological symptoms, those symptoms can look an awful lot like stroke. It can be terrifying. And so, for example, people can have difficulty speaking, sometimes even lose the ability to speak. People can develop numbness in one side of their body, sometimes weakness in one whole side of their body. Now, the difference is for an aura, this is completely reversible. It's a temporary phenomenon that's going on before the headache. But believe me, when it's happening to you, you don't know that. You don't know that you're not having a stroke. And so it always makes sense to go to the emergency room and get checked out. Typically, the aura symptoms will go away pretty quickly, usually within 10, 15 minutes. Stroke symptoms typically go on longer than that, although there are super short forms of stroke called TIA that break that rule. So that's not 100%. That's just a rough guideline. But that risk of stroke goes up in people who smoke and have migraine and take oral contraceptives. So all three of those things end up being risk factors that do slightly increase your chance of stroke even further.
I'm surprised at the oral contraceptives piece. That was something I wasn't expecting you to say, but there have been ties that have been recognized as causing or increasing the chances of, obviously being careful with, not saying that would happen, but I'm surprised at the connection.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oral contraceptives are a recognized factor, the estrogen mainly, that increases the risk of stroke in people with migraine. And it depends from one OB to the next, whoever's prescribing the oral contraceptives. But I have seen many, many people whose OBs will not prescribe oral contraceptives if they have migraine.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the case of epilepsy, What do the connections look like for those who have epilepsy?
There's not a huge link between epilepsy and migraine, slightly higher risk. But it's, I think, less of a concern than stroke. Interestingly, though, many of the medications that we use for migraine are crossover medications that we also use for people with epilepsy. So, for example, gabapentin is, it started off as a seizure medication. We now use it for pain, and head pain is one of the more common places we use it. There are several other medications in that category that we use for both conditions. So, kind of interesting. You can almost think of migraine as an overfiring of the brain and oversensitivity of the brain. And so in a very general way, those medications are kind of suppressing that brain activity back down to normal.
Part of me wonders about, say, the person, man or woman, that experiences some sort of trauma to the body, whether it is, a type of injury, or maybe over time the way that they move, their functional movement has deviated from how it's supposed to, where they're compensating somehow. Mm-hmm. And then what have you seen for those conditions where someone is really struggling with, like, say, back pain, shoulder pain, mm-hmm. suddenly, and it starts to travel, and now, there's a series of headaches that tends to come up. That I've come across that from time to time in those that I know, and I'm curious, your thoughts on that with, say, headaches that don't go away, but then limited range of motion or something, ongoing injuries to the body.
Okay, so did you know that we're talking about me here? Because I don't think I told you that, but somehow you guessed. So my own migraine story is that they often, not always, often come from severe pain in the right side of my neck that radiates forward. And that can be from stress, posture, sometimes I feel like I don't even know. But that is definitely a case where once that pain starts, I then have limited range of motion in the neck. I can't move as much. I'm having this chronic pain there for a couple of days. Now, if I don't get rid of that pain, then pretty soon I'm seeing jagged little shapes over here in my vision, little black and white squiggles from an aura. And then, the migraine happens. I have a lot of tools to manage them these days so they don't impact my life to a great degree anymore. But there was a period of time where this cycle was just relentless. And this is actually what drove me to learn yoga, because what I discovered completely by accident is that if I did yoga during that phase when I had the severe neck pain before the aura and pain and everything started, then I would usually not get the migraine. So, yeah, that was a real eye-opener for me. I was actually in my neurology residency at Stanford when this was going on. And so I was very much in this, pills are the only treatment kind of mindset. And then here's yoga taking away my headaches, or, functioning as a preventive, really. And I was like, wait a minute, how come we're not learning yoga in this neurology residency? And, that's not the purpose of that kind of training. But it did really spark my curiosity about, hey, how is this working? What other ways are there that we can help our bodies heal? So I have done yoga for 25 years. I teach yoga online for my students. And I think it's an incredibly powerful tool to address some of those movement and muscle spasm issues that you're talking about. So that's my favorite treatment.
Have you seen, I know we've got a break coming up soon, but have you seen or received feedback from those who have participated in mind-body movement classes, such as yoga or any practice like that, where there was a noticeable decrease in the severity of headaches, migraines, and the like?
Absolutely. This is well documented in the literature. There are hundreds of studies on this. It is medical fact. The trick, I think, for people with headaches is that if you do the wrong kind of yoga during a headache, is going to make you worse. So if you're in one of these classes that's super hot and you're going upside down and you're getting your heart rate all up, you are not going to feel better if you have a migraine going on.
Got to be careful with the hot yoga and all of that.
Yeah. So I favor yoga that's more of a work in as opposed to a work out. And what I mean by that is more of a gentle yoga, a restorative yoga, a yoga nidra. I think that those are the things that really cocoon our nervous system and help shift us from that fight or flight mode back down into recovery mode or parasympathetic.
Wow, this is good. We're going to continue our conversation. First, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been shown that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
And now we want to give special thanks to Biomed Mobile IV for sponsoring the Health Revolution. Biomed Mobile IV is Colorado's top mobile IV therapy service, servicing throughout the state of Colorado. They offer an array of vitamins and above and beyond safety preparation. Biomed Mobile IV, your dedication to health and wellness is exactly what our show is all about. And we thank you for your support. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Welcome back, everybody. My guest today, Dr. B, Dr. Amelia Scott Barrett. She is an integrative neurologist. We are talking all things migraines, headaches, how to combat them, how to overcome them so that we are able to live a most optimal life possible. Dr. B, I know we were talking about some fascinating information before the break, and I can't, there's so many things I want to touch on. One of the areas is smart health devices when it comes to managing, even, detecting, preventing, all of the like when it comes to the headaches and migraines. Can you talk a little bit about smart health devices and then just the connection in integrating that with, say, the genetic testing and just piling all of that together? What does that look like these days?
Yeah, sure. So I think that the main niche for smart devices is that they tell you if you're doing something helpful before you see results. So typical example, somebody might try melatonin for their sleep problems, right? I bet you know people who've tried melatonin. And so often people would come back to me and say, I tried it. I don't feel like I'm sleeping any better. I'm going to stop it. My headaches aren't better yet. That happens all the time. But the truth of the situation is their sleep was actually better. They just didn't give it long enough to feel the benefit in terms of improved thinking or emotional resilience during the day, or fewer headaches. So that's one of the places where I found these to be super, super helpful. Now, there are a lot of different devices out there that will tell you the different stages of sleep, how much of each stage you're getting, how much total sleep, and they're pretty good. We're actually studying some of these devices as a substitute for a sleep study, which is a giant pain. You got to go to the hospital, the whole thing. But if you could just put a device on and get a rough idea of whether or not you have sleep apnea or not, that'd be super helpful. So these devices are actually really good. And I think that's the way that we can use them to our best benefit. So, for example, you might try some melatonin and then track the amount of deep sleep you get every night for a week, which is not something you feel. Like, you don't wake up and know how much you got. You need the device to tell you. And so you might track it for a week and you're like, oh my gosh, I started getting like 20 minutes more deep sleep every night. That's the super high quality sleep that we all want, Okay, then it's doing something good for you. Just hold on, keep going, hold the course, and give it a little longer so that you can truly feel the benefit in terms of symptoms during the day. So that's one of my more favorite ways to use smart devices. There are so many, you guys. There are entire conferences with all these different smart devices, and I love to go and try to figure out which ones are super helpful for my people with headaches.
So I can only imagine how many patients that you've worked with. What are some of your go-tos with protocols when someone approaches you, or when you come across someone who's like, I've got these headaches, they won't go away. I've tried everything out there. I'm not getting relief. What are your best practice first steps that you like to do when you're addressing patients?
Yeah. It's really a 5-step process. The first stage is what I call the reveal stage, and it's about gathering data. And this depends on, exactly how much information we need to get about the patient and also how much they want to get. And that can range from simple lab tests all the way up to genetic testing. But I think that's a big oversight in mainstream medicine's approach to neurology, to headache patients in neurology today, that we just don't order enough testing. We tend to do an MRI, couple of labs, we call it good. But there is so much more information out there that we can get about the body. I really think we need to start using that more. So I think that's the first step, is to figure out what that patient needs, because it's not often the case that there's a one-size-fits-all approach that's going to fix a health condition, right? Kind of depends on that person's unique factors. And one of the issues for people with headaches is that I feel like people work really hard. They're searching the internet for answers. They're trying supplements. They're trying all these things. And when they don't get better, they just get frustrated. And, they're like, nothing's going to help. I just have to live this way. And I feel like part of the reason people get in that situation is because they weren't spending their limited bandwidth on the most effective things for them. So they found something on the internet that may be perfectly good for somebody else, but it's not what they need. So I think that personalization is really important. That's the first step.
What would be a good way to use for a patient to use their voice to insist from their current doctors that they want to dig a little bit more? What if the doctor is blowing them off, or in the case of the oversight? What type of verbiage would you encourage the viewer who's like, my doctor doesn't pay attention to me and I really want to get it underneath this?
Yeah. That can be a really hard situation, because I feel like you're kind of going against the grain of how we are taught, and that most of the advances in treatment of headaches that are happening outside of prescription meds are happening outside of mainstream medicine. They're happening in functional medicine. They're happening in integrative medicine. They're happening in holistic medicine. So I do think that it's helpful to say, hey, can we just run some labs and see if there might be something else going on here? But my fear is that, it still may not dig deep enough. Yeah. But I think that a lot of us are trying to solve that problem in integrative medicine. You can do a lot of this work online. You don't even need a doctor's order for many of these labs these days, which is just so empowering for people. So it's really about just figuring out who you want to work with and getting started with that. And, online is an absolute game changer for so many people because location doesn't matter anymore.
That's absolutely true. We're going to take a quick break. Stay right where you are. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this.
Hi, this is Clara Capano, your host for Women Winning Their Way, where we talk about how you can create success all on your terms. Join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Limelight Network here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. My guest today, Dr. Amelia Scott Barrett, also known as Dr. B, integrative neurologist. We were talking all things headaches and migraines, overcoming them to live best life ever. Dr. B, where are you on the internet and on social media?
The easiest way to find me is at theheadachequiz.com. That is a 2-minute quiz that gives me a sense of where you're at with your headaches so that I can send you actionable tips starting right away. Much of integrative medicine is about lifestyle change, and a lot of that you can do from the comfort of your own home. The real challenge is sifting through the fire hose of information out there on the internet and finding reliable information so that you're not wasting your time. That is my mission. I want to empower women with the information that they need to relieve headaches, to truly recover, rather than just cover up their headaches with pills, and to help change that statistic that migraine is the #1 cause of disability in women under 50.
And where are you on social media?
That's Amelia Scott Barrett, MD, on all platforms. That's my website, that's Facebook, and that is Instagram.
Yes. And there we have it for our viewers. And of course, the time is flying super fast. Can you share quickly a success story from someone who maybe just felt like their hands were tied, that headaches weren't going away, and that they saw success in the approaches that you really stand by?
Absolutely. So this is a gal who was having headaches every single day before she started my course, got the information about her body, was very surprised to find that she had multiple food sensitivities, really did not have any stomach symptoms. And she had tried all of the standard food recommendations for migraines, like avoid your food triggers, avoid red wine, chocolate, aged cheeses, etc. None of that ever made any difference. For her, it was all about the food sensitivities. She started avoiding the foods that her body was reacting to. And within the space of 3 months, she was down to 2 headache days a week. That was one happy gal.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's fantastic. So obviously it's a testament to not giving up, getting to the root of the cause and the process of elimination, if you will.
Absolutely. And getting information about your body.
You have, obviously you spoke at a TEDx talk last year. Anything coming up for 2024? Any plans, any specific events that you plan to be a part of that's on the horizon?
You know, what's most important to me is impacting as many lives as possible with this new science and technology. And so as part of that effort, I am forming partnerships with other neurologists and other people and practitioners of any type who take care of people with headaches to enable them to bring integrative tools to their patients. I think that everybody understands that this is important. It's essential. It's a necessary part of healing, but accessing it can be challenging. And, you know, I spent 25 years as a neurologist. I know how busy those days are. I know how much you want to talk about sleep, stress, and nutrition, and the time just vanishes. So I want to make it easier for people to bring these tools directly to the people who need them the most.
Yes, and we have show notes with all of your information attached to the bottom of the screen where viewers can access that tab to get a hold of your information. And Dr. B, thank you so much for being here. Speaking of time flying, the time really flew. This was a fascinating conversation with you, and I appreciate your time, your energy, and your input into something that we really should learn more about. And this is a great stepping stone, you being here. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And for all our viewers, of course, you know that you can find us on the web at thehealthrevolutiontv.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can also email us any show episode ideas we'd love to deliver for you. And of course, on the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see a QR code pop. If, as the crow flies, if it's better for you to grab that code, feel free to do so. And then, of course, we are always on E360 TV on the Achieve TV channel, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, each and every single week. That's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon.